On a Tuesday, we always put in a little overtime. Welcome into Fox8 Overtime. We got a full house in-house today. Sean Vazant, Chris Hagan, Garland Gillen. I'm watching Tim.
Sure about
It's too early to say 3 weeks in, and the Saints look a safe bet to win the NFC South. 3 weeks in.
I still think they're the favorite. I mean, look at the rest of the division.
I think they're the favorite. I'm not going to say safe bet, but they look the best.
Yeah, I'm going to go with y'all right now. They got a lot of quarterback problems in the NFC South right now.
All right, let's get you right to the big board. The Saints are obviously a big part of tonight's show. Their new formula for success, LSU's high-scoring style offense, Tulane's statement win against Houston last Thursday night. Let's begin with the leaders of the NFC South. Right now, your New Orleans Saints, 48 hours removed from a very impressive win in Seattle. Their first three there since 2007, and they did it without Drew Brees in the building, so they had to improvise. Teddy Bridgewater got better as the game went on. The offense got help from special teams, and the defense getting the first points on the board. All three phases, it's how the Saints will have to win right now. Is that the way it's going to be going forward?
Look, yes. I think, especially against a team that sort of matches up with you talent-wise, you know, look, it's just going to look different with Teddy Bridgewater instead of Drew Brees. A very complete complementary football game. We talk about a special teams touchdown, a defensive touchdown. I thought Teddy was clean. I thought he did what was asked of him. I didn't think he was spectacular. I didn't think he was terrible. I thought he was right where he kind of needed to be. Made just enough plays and made good decisions, and most importantly, took care of the football. So this is how it's going to look for the next 6 weeks if they're going to win games. And you know his stat line, 19 of 27, 177. That's about what he does. So, yeah, I think this is, as long as they're getting a W, I mean, who really cares?
But winning in all three phases is how it should look regardless.
Yeah.
Just because Brees is there, if you're able to rely on him a little bit more, that doesn't mean any other part of the game should slack off. And look, I know everybody wants to see the bigger offensive numbers and more shots down the field. It was rainy. It was wet. Even with Brees, you're not going to force the ball down the field to Jared Cook in the seam or Michael Cook or Michael Thomas or anybody on these deep routes just to do it. It's got to be a smart approach. And with that rain, I'm not sure even Brees would want to be throwing the ball downfield as much as some people would like to see for those flashy numbers. That's a game that if you want to win as
Gotta grind it.
Little comfortable, they won rather comfortably for it being in Seattle. They would have had to play well regardless of who was in at quarterback in all three phases.
The last time the Saints scored a special teams touchdown, a defensive touchdown, an offensive touchdown, 1998. I was in college. Juan, you weren't even living in the state of Louisiana. Chris, you what, elementary school, 1998?
Yeah, something like that.
My point is, it's not going to happen again probably for a long time. So you're gonna have to have a total effort from all three phases. Just don't expect touchdowns from all three phases. I mean, that's unheard of. It only happened for the third time in Saints franchise history. But Teddy Bridgewater, as long as he doesn't make mistakes, he plays the safe passes, quick hitters. Defense shows up again there. I know on the back end they gave up a lot of yards again on in the secondary.
Playing the prevent.
But Thomas Morstead had I thought one of the best games of his career, pinning the Seahawks in twice inside the 5-yard line. That's not going to happen every week, but if you can get somewhat close to that effort every week, then you're going to look pretty good going forward.
One guy we talked about in training camp continues to impress, Deontay Harris. Guys, it seems like from tiny Assumption College, but boy, this moment is not too big for him, Chris.
No, it's not. I mean, yeah, you had the muffed punt there on a punt return a little bit later, and give him a little breathing room there because he's a rookie and those kind of things happen. It's wet, but yeah, the punt return. I mean, I'm sure they've emphasized since getting Harris in the building, you can be a real difference maker, and he took that opportunity and swung that game in the Saints' favor.
But he had 12 touchdowns in his collegiate career, set an NC2A record for most returns for touchdowns. That clearly translated regardless of the level of football. It's just, that's a knack, that's a skill set that not everybody has. You catch the ball and you go. And he caught a seam. He didn't really get a great block. He just kind of found a seam and just outraced everybody into the end zone. He's got that quickness. He's very quick with making his decision of what to do with the football when he gets it, which is crucial in returning punts. And man, it's so good to have this element of your team back in the fold because, like we said before, it's so great to have. It could be the difference.
You're right. We heard a lot of players talk about after games, particularly Dario Davis, saying we knew the kind of game we had to play, Garland, in Seattle. It was going to be nasty in the trenches. We had to win at the point of attack. The Saints gave up 7 points through the first 3 quarters, and their defense plays very well. You're impressed about how that side of the ball played in those first 3 quarters and put the fourth playing a lot of prevent.
You know, you make a great point there. And yeah, in the last quarter there, they're playing.
They're giving up a lot.
Yeah, giving a little cushion there. But before that, I just ball hawking, making fumble recoveries there. That's something you don't see a lot from the Saints there, forcing the ball out. So that I was impressed by that. But you're right. Chris Carson didn't do a lot of damage in this game there. Russell Wilson did get his, but he got it in trash time for the Seahawks.
Ask you guys about the secondary because, and talking to Deuce McAllister early in the week on the Black and Gold Review, he said, you know, that unit keeps giving up big plays, and they've got to find a way to get that figured out. Marshawn Lattimore has not looked the same since the end of last year or going back to his rookie year. He hasn't been that dominant shutdown corner. How do you solve this problem?
They solved it last year, but a lot of that was they brought in Eli Apple. Eli Apple's been here for the duration of training camp in the season. This is the secondary you had pretty much on your run last year. They've got to get this figured out. I don't know if it's a focus thing. I don't know if it's just a situation where they're just getting beat. I mean, Lattimore's in position to make plays. Williams is in position to make plays. I know Von Bell's had a pretty good year. Eli Apple had the nice punch out, but you're not going to, this is not a recipe for success long term, is keep giving up chunk plays and big plays, because next week this matchup is in Cowboys wide receivers versus, you know, Saints DBs. That's not as favorable to the Saints as it was last week in Seattle.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like Sean said, the personnel hasn't really changed much, if at all, really. And the big plays have still been there. It's something about a slow start. I mean, obviously, you saw him get torched by Tampa Bay to start 2018. Didn't look great at times against the Browns or the Falcons in weeks 2 and 3, and then all of a sudden it just gradually gets a little bit better. You're hoping that's the case, but you would have thought they would have started better this year just because of how much in training camp and after the Texans game that Marshawn Lattimore talked about starting a lot better, not waiting a couple games to get going, because he does want to get back to that form of his rookie year.
It feels like he's the one that's starting slower than anyone else in that secondary. Is it just me?
I mean, he gets targeted, and look, it's an exposed position. He's guarding the DeAndre Hopkins of the world and the Tyler Lockett's, and it's not easy. So for every play that we call his name, there are a lot of other plays where we're not calling his name. That's a good thing.
Yes, it is.
Still, you're going to get targeted a lot, so that's why the yardage is going to come that way, because that's their best receiver. It's give and take.
Yeah.
They won, so you're happy with that. It's easy to correct mistakes after a win. Still, it's just the explosive plays. That's the big thing.
You're right about that. Teddy Bridgewater was not perfect, but we all saw, Garland, what a week of work in the offense as the first-team guy, getting all the snaps in practice, how much of a difference maker that can be. Yeah,
and one thing I want to make a point of also is that Coach Payton during the week, he kind of kept the Seattle Seahawks off guard here, saying he didn't know who the starter was going to be.
Typical Payton.
And then Taysom Hill had 4 offensive touches in the game on Sunday. It was his lowest output on offense since last season. So give props first to Coach Payton for keeping the Falcons, I guess, drowning them in film tape. But you say about Bridgewater, this is what we're going to expect. This is what's going to happen. It's going to be 160, 170 yards a game. That's what he did in Minnesota. He got a lot of wins. They went 11-5 his last year as a starter. Just don't make mistakes. Get the ball out quickly, and this is what you're going to see going forward. You're not getting 300, 350-yard passing games. I just don't think that's what you're going to get from Teddy.
I would say the one thing you cannot see going forward is Alvin Kamara getting 25 touches a game in this offense.
I'm very curious where that goes, because, I mean, how could you not feed him in Seattle? You had to. He was the guy.
Yeah.
He dominated that game. So I'm curious where that goes, the balance there, because at 41's one of your best offensive players. You got to get him the ball.
And that said, I think because of how close this Dallas game could be, and this might be another one where he gets 20-plus touches, because in the type of games where you're not necessarily playing with a lead or a comfortable lead, you want him to have the ball because he gives you your best chance to score any given play.
You want Latavius in there a little bit, though, don't you? A little bit more than just 2 touches?
Yeah, but you want Kamara over 20 touches. The Saints are 8-0 in his time in New Orleans with Kamara as getting 20-plus touches, so they're undefeated. So I think that's the nice magic number spot there. But, I mean, it was the second biggest output ever with the Saints there for Kamara. But, yeah, a little more work for Latavius Murray. But give Kamara, just let him eat, man. This is a huge game. He can maybe, against the Bucs, pull it back a little. That team is not as good. Maybe give Murray a ton more carries in the Bucs game.
It's a matter of who's effective. It's not just giving touches to give touches for numbers' sake. It's who's effective in game flow.
That's right. That's right. All right, coming up, LSU's track meet offense has been running past every opponent, but could it play better going forward? We'll discuss that next.
You're watching Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.
Welcome back into overtime up in Baton Rouge. They've got a really good thing going right now at LSU, and it's on the offensive side of the ball. Back in the summer at SEC Media Days, LSU quarterback Joe Burrow warned us Tigers to score 40, 50 points per game. He was right. 231 in the first 4. That's an average of around 60 points per game. It's an SEC record for that time frame. Guys, Joe Burrow was right back then, but did any of us up here believe him?
No, I think I can recall the day we did this show. After he did that, we were kind of like, yeah, okay, they're going to score more, but I don't know about 40 or 50 or 60. Yeah. But, man, he has backed up those words, man. What else can you say? I mean, the guy's just balling right now. The offense suits him, and he has improved as a passer, so much so that now all of a sudden you're starting to hear first-round draft talk.
Yeah.
When was the last time that happened for an LSU quarterback?
It's been a while.
Jamarcus?
Yeah. Been quite a while since that's been legitimate talk. But, yeah, Burrow has lived up to that backing, and maybe Burrow just looked at the schedule and was like, yeah, we can do it against these teams, and then maybe it tapers off. I do think it gets tougher, but kudos to this offense. Like I've said probably 4 times in the last couple of weeks, it just kind of hit me. They've always had the talent at receiver. It's just the right offensive coordinator and right quarterback, and boom, you've got the athletes and you've got everything necessary to have a massive passing game that leads the country in scoring offense.
Hang on a second. Would this still be happening if Ensminger was calling all the plays?
No.
And Brady wasn't there? Yeah.
No, it's a totally different philosophy, different routes being run, a different way of moving the ball over the middle of the field. Burrow's been good at that, but they've expanded upon that, and this is a quarterback who that's his strength, is seeing the different levels of the field, and they've done an excellent job with it.
Props to the fans who bet in the preseason on Joe Burrow being the Heisman Trophy winner. He was at 200-1 odds. You got a better chance of one of these lights falling hitting us than 200-1 odds.
Right.
Look up, make sure.
Thank you.
Now,
Goodness gracious.
Now he's down. He's only behind Tua right now in the bettors. He's got a better chance right now winning the Heisman than Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Jonathan Taylor out of Wisconsin. It's a brave new world here where he's got 17 touchdown passes in 4 games. In the summer when he said all that, I just didn't believe it.
No one could, because you're going based on what they've done in the past. And I mean, you didn't know what Joe Brady was going to bring to the offense. We know he's been around Drew Brees for so long. But what's impressed you guys the most about LSU's offense so far? Besides Joe Burrow?
Just the amount of passing. I didn't know they were going to throw the ball this much. They told us they were going to do it. We knew they had a bunch of 5- and 4-star recruits, but if you'd have told me Jamar Chase would have 4 touchdown receptions in one game, and that Terrace Marshall would have 3 in one game, and Justin Jefferson would have 3 in another game, I wouldn't have believed you, Juan. I would have told you crazy. The numbers that these receivers are putting up right now in this offense is crazy.
I would say the offensive line has been a pleasant surprise. Now, they certainly haven't faced the best that they're going to face this year, but they've been a big part of that passing game and giving Burrow the time to operate. Burrow's also done a good job improving his footwork, but behind that line, he's had the time necessary and been able to make some throws down the field that maybe weren't possible maybe even last year because of some of the disorganization they had up there.
Sean, what do you still need to have answered about this offense?
Well, you need to see SEC competition, but you need to see a long gauntlet of SEC competition with an SEC defensive line that's going to challenge that offensive line. So
that will come with.
I don't think it's going to be this easy in the SEC. I think they're going to score, but it's going to get more difficult as the season goes on here.
All right, still to come on overtime. Break up the Tulane Green Wave. They're living up to their own expectations. We'll head uptown when we come back.
By Lexus.
Back here on overtime, time to head uptown where Tulane is in a bye week, which means more time to reflect on not only what happened last Thursday night, but how it happened. Down 21, the Wave put together a comeback for the ages. And then there was the connection from Justin McMillan to Jalen McCleskey for the game-winning touchdown against Houston. It was such a relief for the Greenies as they exercised a bit of demons against the Cougars. Guys, where does this rank on Tulane's biggest wins list?
It's got to be up there over the last, 2 decades, right? Since the '98 season, as far as big-time wins, program-defining moment. That's the best throw I've ever seen Justin McMillan make right there. The best one, because I've been critical of his arm strength over the middle of the field. That is a great throw. And then, of course, the play before the play. I mean, the run. I'm in my Airbnb in Seattle watching the game.
You fancy.
I'm thinking to myself, why are they downing it? Why are they kneeling?
Yeah.
Go for it. And sure enough, they did.
What makes it such a big win, too, is the comeback. I mean, it was 28-7, and I'm thinking, I hate to see this. I hate to see Tulane, go down on national television. What was really a big night, and it just set them up for an even better comeback. And they performed very well in that second half. You could tell Houston was a little bit gassed. So credit Tulane for keeping their foot on the gas and never, letting up on Houston. They made some big throws. We obviously talk about the game winner, but some of the throws McMillan made, the first touchdown pass to Jalen McCleskey over 2 defensive players, and then the third and 14 from their own 3-yard line, they would go on to score on that drive, and that was a big part of the comeback. I mean, they shot themselves in the foot, and McMillan makes a great throw. McCleskey with a Tony toe tap grab on the sideline. It was an impressive game all around from the Wave.
Well, they're saying it's the biggest win uptown since 1973 when they beat LSU. That's saying something. I will say this, last year, the Army game, to get them bowl eligible, I think that was a huge win for them because of the culture needed a change of winning, and Willie Fritz finally had a winner, and they went on to a bowl game and won that. So that game was just as important as this game, I think. But the crowd, national television, I mean, you watch Sports Center, you watch Get Up the next morning. It was one of the lead stories. Like Tulane lead stories on national broadcast for highlights. They're on the map now. People know who Will Hall is, and they know who Willie Fritz is.
And they also pushed Houston quarterback De'Aaron King to decide he wants to sit the year out and make a decision. Maybe he's coming to Tulane next year.
I'll talk about that in the next segment.
All right, we will get to that, Sean Fazan. That's a tease, what you call that. All right, coming up, another tease from a couple guys deciding to take a break from football to refs going one step too far. And Pete Carroll sleeping on Kamara? Everyone gets the final say.
Sponsored by Lexus.
We are in the home stretch of Fox 8 Overtime, and that means it's time to talk about our upcoming Fox 8 Overtime game of the week. Country Day in Newman. There may be a few points scored in that game.
Whew, Arch Manning.
Maybe a few.
Arch Manning, a freshman. Last week, Ibieta threw 6 touchdown passes to winning against Episcopal. Arch Manning threw 5 touchdowns against Bonneville. Chris Hagan almost got taken out right there.
I did.
Good camera work right there.
Soft.
It's gonna. I'm putting the over/under right now at 80 points.
80 points? Good Lord.
Over/under is 80 points. Over/under is 80 points in that game.
God-given talent on that field right there. Gonna be a good game to watch. Here are our players of the week, by the way, nominees. Country Day quarterback Justin Ibieta, 6 touchdowns against Episcopal Baton Rouge. Leonard Kelly, quarterback from Carr, with 2 touchdowns and a touchdown run over Easton. And Newman QB Arch Manning, 5 scores and a win against East Jefferson. To vote, head to fox8live.com. Voting began on Monday and it closes on Wednesday. Time now for everyone's favorite, our final say. He's back from Seattle. Sean Fazan leading us off.
All right, I'm back. Well, was anyone else confused by the news of Houston quarterback De'Aaron King redshirting? Immediately I thought to myself, is he hurt? Did he get demoted? Well, none of that. King is perfectly healthy and was starting. But instantly, rumors swirl about King going to Oklahoma. His dad even said he was gone, but King says he plans on staying at Houston. If that's the case, does he think they'll be better next year? Does he do this in coordination, or did he do this in coordination with head coach Dana Holgorsen? Holgorsen said today the NCAA is probably upset with him because this wasn't the intent of the new redshirt rule. Holgorsen also said he's scared that King will transfer. What a bizarre situation, and who knows what ultimately happens. What we do know is that a star quarterback who's playing at an extremely high level and possibly a head coach have punted on their season in September because it hasn't gone well. Look, I love the new 4-game redshirt rule, and I think the transfer portal is an overall positive for the players, but come on. This is an unintended consequence. Here's hoping that this remains more of an outlier than a regular occurrence.
Week after week in the NFL receives a ton of criticism for the penalties called or not called. Some of the holding and pass interference calls are admittedly really tough for officials to make, but one flag that shouldn't be hard to keep in your pocket is the one that was thrown on Falcon safety Keanu Neal over the weekend. On a play where he went down with an injury, Neal threw his helmet, drawing a 15-yard flag for unsportsmanlike conduct. But what the tone-deaf referees missed was the fact that Neal, who just missed last season with a torn ACL, threw the helmet out of sadness and frustration, already realizing that he'd torn his Achilles and will be spending another long year grinding away doing rehab. Neal was literally crying on the field. We're all human, and in that moment, you're hard-pressed to find anyone who wouldn't sympathize with Neal, except, of course, the official. All I ask, refs, do better, use better judgment. because it goes a long way.
Player empowerment is running rampant in the NBA. Don't like your team? Force a trade. Anthony Davis, Jimmy Butler, and Kyrie Irving are some of the latest examples. In the NFL, you don't see it as much, but that's changing. Antonio Brown forced not one, but 2 trades. Khalil Mack also got out of Oakland. And the latest example of trying to get out of Dodge, Jalen Ramsey. He's asked the management of the Jaguars to trade him. After a big win against the Titans, did he change his tune? Not a chance. Instead, he's sitting out of practice with the flu this week. Well, that's convenient. Player empowerment is now here to stay in the NFL. Just hope the fans don't get sick of it like Ramsey is.
My final say is a wake-up call from Pete Carroll to every NFL head coach not named Sean Payton. You better recognize that Alvin Kamara is very good. And you better know that before you face him on the field, or you'll get a rude reminder from number 41 himself. Apparently, Carroll didn't know and had to find out the hard way on Sunday when Kamara used all 25 of his touches to dance around the Seahawks defense. Simply put, Pete Carroll may have nodded off in the film room. Why else would he say on Monday that Kamara was, quote, better than I thought he was, unquote? Pete, you are probably the only coach in the NFL that doesn't know just how good the Saints' premier running back is. Pete also said on Monday that Kamara has a, quote, style about him that you need to see in person, unquote. Well, the film don't lie. That is, unless you don't bother to stay awake while it's on. The Fox8 Overtime podcast is full of good stuff right now. Last night's Black and Gold review show is on episode 75. We're also talking Saints on the 74th edition, and more LSU Tiger talk is on 73. You can find our podcast on fox8live.com, the final play in Tiger Huddle Laps, and wherever you listen to your podcast. And don't forget, a big Thursday nighter this week on Fox 8, Cowboys and Eagles. Until then, well, Packers and Eagles this week on Fox 8. Real quickly, how will the Pelicans do this season? Make the playoffs real quickly?
I think it's close. I'm going to say they get the 8th seed.
Yes.
Okay.
8th seed, I like it.
8th seed.
No doubt.
All right. Oh, Lord. No doubt. All right. Until then, for all of us here at Fox 8, thanks for watching Overtime. Our next newscast is at 4:30 in the morning. Have a great night.
This has been Fox 8 Overtime, sponsored by Lexus.